Good evening from Holyrood. Coming up on tonight's Representing Border. Charities call for increased support as the government promises to work more closely with them. We hear how one local group is helping some of society's most vulnerable.
The asylum seeker or the refugees, they don't have many places to go, and you see there's many problems around the country.
At Holyrood, ministers announce a partnership they say will give more of a voice to smaller organisations.
Importantly, this partnership will include the whole sector, not only reaching organisations with a direct funding relationship with government.
And we consider what it means for the charities sector with the head of the British Heart Foundation in Scotland. The Scottish Government has pledged to provide fairer funding for charities, as well as giving them more of a voice when it comes to deciding policy. Ministers made the promise at Holyrood today, but one local group, which doesn't receive any government support, has told this programme that much more needs to be done to help smaller organisations. Greg Hoare has been to hear from volunteers and service users at the Depot, a charity that supports refugees and asylum seekers in Dumfries and Galloway.
The first one, it was from Turkey to Greece, and the second one from France to the UK.
Noor Alouaidat's art tells the story of his journey from Syria to the UK, where he's now applying for asylum. When the Home Office moved him to Dumfries, he was supported by local charity The Depot. Now he's helping them with this exhibition at the group's pop-up shop on the High Street. He spoke to us through a translator who's also an asylum seeker.
المعرض اللي أنا قدمته بكل شيء تقريبا هم كانوا بالنسبة لي بمثابة العائلة.
So the depot was from the beginning for him is like a family. They helped him to learn English. They helped him to bring materials also to help him to draw, because the asylum seeker or the refugees, they don't have many places to go, and you see there's many problems around the country.
Asylum seekers aren't allowed to do paid work, so this is all done on a voluntary basis. It's part of the launch of the charity's new cookbook, and they need it to be a success because they don't get government funding.
So over the last 2 years, we have had the most wonderful time feeding each other, basically, and sharing food and sharing recipes and sharing stories and memories from home countries. So that's become very important. So I thought, good idea, maybe, to put this all together in a cookbook, to share the ideas, to make some money, because we're always looking for money.
How important is it, do you think, that government properly supports charities like this?
I think it's incredibly important. I think it would be nice if the government, local government, national government, would recognise that a lot of the work that we're doing is something that we're doing, and they don't have to do it, and therefore should give us the funding to do it and to make it successful and effective.
This afternoon, the new Scottish Government promised to work more closely with charities and offer fairer funding.
We have repeatedly heard that the current system is unsustainable. The demand for services continues to increase alongside challenging financial pressures. In February, I announced my intention to co-design a third sector partnership agreement, and following a strong endorsement of this vision in the recent election, I'm delighted to take this work forward, ultimately creating a strategic partnership of equals. Importantly, this partnership will include the whole sector, not only reaching organisations with a direct funding relationship with government.
The pop-up shop here is full of stories, from the artwork to the recipes in the cookbook. The volunteers say the government making good on today's promise to work more closely with charities could help them to continue telling those tales.
Greg Hoare. Well, later in the debate, MSPs, including Carol Mockin, who represents the South Scotland region for Scottish Labour, urged the government to provide charities with longer-term funding arrangements to help them support local communities on a more consistent basis.
This agreement presents an opportunity to reset the relationship, align priorities and deliver on some of the sector's long-term asks, such as calls to introduce multi-year funding arrangements, as we've all touched on
It's no secret the third sector is very close to my heart. As many of you here know, I have a long-term illness, and when the NHS couldn't provide the support I needed, it was the Lyme disease charities which picked up the pieces. There is nothing in the government's motion that we disagree with, which is why our amendment seeks to add to the motion by calling for proper long-term, multi-year funding that lasts more than 2 years. A grant system which provides smaller charities equal access to government cash.
By working collaboratively, we can ensure that the Third Sector Partnership Agreement is not just a statement of intent, but a lasting agreement that supports a stable and sustainable sector and delivers real change for the people and communities of Scotland.
And to discuss whether the Scottish Government's new plans will have any real impact, or if we've just heard it all before, I caught up with David McColgan. He's head of British Heart Foundation Scotland. David McColgan, the Scottish Government says it wants a new partnership with the third sector, fairer funding, more of a role for organisations like Charities in shaping policy. What's your take on that, your response to that?
Well, I think it's great to see the motion coming into the Parliament, but for many people who have been around the third sector for a number of years, they'll know that this is a kind of 2, 3, every 4 year motion that happens, and there'll be a lot of people watching the debate thinking we've heard it all before, but the truth is the rhetoric doesn't often meet the reality.
So does that mean then, what do you want to see from the government then, if you say you've been frustrated by this going back, well, probably more than a decade in your case?
Yeah, so my first ever appearance on TV was a debate exactly like this 13 years ago that was looking at 3-year funding cycles. So if you look at the third sector, it's involved in some of the most challenging situations in the country. So ending violence against women, tackling smoking, alcohol consumption, looking at unemployment and youth poverty. And these aren't challenges that are going to be solved within 12 months or even 3 years. We're talking 5 to 10 year programmes that we're going to really dive into this. So if we're looking at what this partnership really look like, I think long-term funding, a long-term commitment from the government to tackle these problems, and not just the current cycle, which is often 1 year, and if you're really lucky, 2 year funding. So I think there'll be a lot of third sector organisations out there saying we're really keen to tackle these problems, we want to work with government, but the truth is the funding to sustain these organisations needs to be there to make it happen.
Can you appreciate why more than 1 year of funding is difficult for governments? You know, the Scottish Government sets its budget every year. It is then relying for about half of it from what's coming from the UK government on a yearly basis. And I suppose then, how confident does that make you that you're going to get multi-year funding to give that stability that you're asking for?
So I understand the funding landscape, and I think we all understand the funding landscape. But I think the people holding the purse strings in the Scottish Government know there's going to be funding beyond year 2, year 3, year 4. And I'd be really keen to look at new ways of funding and funding envelopes that would come from the government. So we know that the Scottish Government will have a budget next year, they'll have a budget the year after and a budget the year after. We don't need exact pound and pence funding, but I think there needs to be a commitment to a funding envelope over a period of time that could give organisations confidence to move forward with these programmes, but also give the staff within those organisations the confidence that they're going to have a job and have a commitment beyond year 1.
So is that what you think fairer funding that the Scottish Government is talking about? Is that what it looks like? It's about security as much as it is about exactly how much money you're getting?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I accept that the government can't say in year 1 you're going to get this and in year 2 you're guaranteed a pot of money. But I think what they can be saying is that we are committed to support an X organisation or X commitment moving forward. And that would give organisations an opportunity to look a little bit longer term. You know, one of my roles in the third sector is chair of a small charity. You know, we've got Q1 funding, we're looking at the rest of the year, but what does year 2 and year 3 look like? And that's really where organisations and chief executives are really looking for that support from the government.
And of course there's many small charities who don't get any funding from the government. Does that need to be looked at as well? You know, the idea that maybe it's bigger charities hoovering up a lot of the money that's available here?
Yeah, so I think looking at the landscape and who's operating in Scotland, so I'm head of British Heart Foundation Scotland, probably one of the larger charities. We don't take any funding from Scottish Government. We're funded solely by the donations that people give us. But there are bigger charities in Scotland who will have funding and will be driving that. But I think there's an opportunity to look local. What does local look like? What does local delivery look like? And that doesn't have to be a national charity delivering in every locality. It could be supporting smaller charities. So I suppose part of the debate here is about what does the third sector look like in Scotland? What could it look like and what would better be in the future?
And how are things at British Heart Foundation just now? Are you feeling fairly secure in your funding?
So at British Heart Foundation Scotland, we're doing really well at the minute. We just had one of our largest years for income generation, which was fantastic, and that is off the back of members of the public coming together, raising funds for the British Heart Foundation. You know, we are still, in terms of heart disease, the single biggest killer in the country. 800,000 people in Scotland living with heart disease, so we've got many supporters out there, and we don't take them for granted. It is a really hard operating environment. Every charity has got a credible cause and got credible supporters who are really keen to support them. So I think for charities, it's really about being transparent about what you're doing with your money, being really committed to your cause, you know, not creeping out and trying to find other pots of money. And I think where organisations are transparent and where they're really committed to a really strong cause, they find the support out there across Scotland.
And just finally, you have facilities as well in the Scottish Borders in Dumfries and Galloway that many of our viewers will have used, be aware of. There's kind of local facilities are sometimes the ones that can be cut back when charities are struggling. You mentioned the importance of local provision there. Are you confident that they'll keep going in the kind of south of Scotland?
Look, for BHF across Scotland, our commitment is helping everyone across Scotland. Our primary purpose is to fund medical research. We fund that across 7 universities in Scotland, and everybody who's set foot in a GP surgery, a pharmacy, or a hospital, no matter where they are in Scotland, and even in the Borders, will have massively benefited from the science and the research that we're funding. But local facilities are really important, whether they are local authority run, government run, third sector run. Local facilities are the ones that people will know, they will understand, they will access readily. And that's a really important part of today's debate, is about how do we ensure that delivery is still local. It's not about national organisations, you know, coming in and doing it. And sometimes that's the right route to take, but quite often local communities will know exactly how to solve a problem or how to support a community better, and that's really about a vibrant and successful third sector.
Fantastic. Well, we'll see if the the rhetoric is matched by action. But for now, David McColgan, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Now, a local SNP MSP has called for an investigation after a French government agency accused an Israeli firm of spreading online misinformation about the First Minister during the Holyrood election campaign. The company Blackcore deleted its online presence after reports linked it to fake accounts which smeared candidates who had spoken in support of Palestine. The Israeli embassy in Paris said Israel had no intention to intervene in the French political process. Today, the SNP's Callum Kerr said the UK government should look into what happened, and he revealed his own social media had been targeted by hackers.
I think it's dangerous to have accusations that we throw around. What we can go on is what the French government said, that they say it was an Israeli company. What the motivation behind it, we don't know, but that's all the more reason to do an investigation. There are a number of bad faith actors around the world that could be behind it, so let's not be passive on this. Let's get on the front foot.
Well, John Swinney rushed back from his trip to the World Cup to answer backbench First Minister's questions this afternoon. And he began, as you would expect, with a tribute to not only Scotland's winning goal scorer against Haiti, John McGinn, but to the whole team, which included Dumfries' own Grant Hanley and Lyndon Dykes.
So let me begin by expressing the warmest congratulations of everyone in the Scottish Parliament and indeed the whole of our country at the outstanding performance of Steve Clarke, Andy Robertson and the Scotland team and the Tartan Army, who were an absolute credit to our country in the United States at the weekend. It was a particular pleasure for me to see our fans make such a positive impression in Boston and to capture the imagination and the interest of the city.
With the World Cup underway and the Commonwealth Games due to take place here in Scotland over summer, thousands of children and young people here in Scotland are being exposed to alcohol marketing, and this is associated with national pride and with sport and alcohol branding. What assessment has the Scottish Government made of the impact of these alcohol partnerships?
A crucial part of that work is the engagement the Government takes forward with those stakeholders who are concerned about the issues that Carol Mochan raises, and also the participation of the alcohol industry in taking forward the responsible approaches to alcohol consumption and the requirement to ensure that forms part of our wider discussion.
The First Minister recently visited the White Sands in Dumfries, where, despite significant local opposition, work is underway on a controversial £70 million flood defence scheme. The community fears the impact on businesses, the environment, and has concerns about soaring costs amid reports of insufficient funds in Scottish Government flood defence funding.
Does he want to just leave people vulnerable to flooding in their community? Is that what he wants? And because I think at some point, Mr Hoy, who's now the MSP for Dumfries, has got to decide, is he actually acting to protect his constituents, or is he just coming here to get another press release put out? It's not really how a responsible local member of Parliament should operate.
Now, this week we'll see 3 by-elections take place that could have a massive impact on politics across the UK. 2 of them are in Scotland, with the Conservatives targeting a scalp from the SNP in Aberdeen South. But most significant is the contest in Makerfield and Greater Manchester. That is more than just a vote to decide the local MP, it's likely to decide the next Prime Minister too. To analyse what all this will mean, Tom Sheldrick spoke with Kate Devlin, Whitehall editor at The Independent.
Kate Devlin, why does the Makerfield by-election matter so much?
I mean, I think it's no mistake to say that this could be the most consequential by-election potentially in British history. It could be that on Thursday when they go to the polls, the good people of Makerfield decide who will be the next Prime Minister of this country.
Let's step it all through chronologically if we can. First of all, how likely is Andy Burnham to win the by-election on Thursday? Reform UK his main threat?
Reform UK are absolutely his main threat. All the polls suggest that Andy is most likely to win this. And from people I've been talking to inside Labour, they are getting a little bit more confident as we get closer to Thursday. And some people inside Reform are getting a little bit more despondent about what will happen. So yes, at the minute, it does look as if Andy Burnham is going to win this by-election.
And there's some talk that Restore Britain, Rupert Lowe's party, could play a significant role in getting Andy Burnham over the line?
They could play the role in getting Andy Burnham over the line, in that the number of votes that go to them instead of going to Reform UK could be crucial for Andy Burnham. Now, this would be both a good thing and a bad thing for him. Obviously, a win is a win. But if he were to win only because of the number of votes that went to Restore, it would raise really serious questions within Labour about, fine, he can win a by-election, but is he the man who can win us a general election?
And stepping it forward, if he does win this by-election on Thursday, how likely is it that Andy Burnham becomes Prime Minister?
So the thing to look out for in the early hours of Friday morning is how much he wins by. What is the size of the vote? Because there's 2 options here. If he wins just by squeaking it, it could be that what happens within Labour is that they try to go for a Labour leadership election. Now, of course, Keir Starmer has pretty much said that he's going to stay and he's going to fight it. The other option, of course, is if it's a very, very big win for Andy Burnham. His supporters will be pushing at that stage for effectively their man to return in triumph to Westminster and for a coronation for him to become the next Prime Minister.
And what role could Wes Streeting play in all of this?
I think it's going to be quite difficult for Wes Streeting if it's looking as if it's heading towards a coronation. Of course, he could play a significant role in an Andy Burnham government. He could be a part of the cabinet. Where he really comes into play is if we are looking as if we're heading for a Labour leadership election. I spoke to Wes Streeting this morning. He insists that he does have the numbers, that he will have the EDMPs necessary to get into a competition. So it could be a competition, Wes Streeting versus Andy Burnham versus Keir Starmer.
And you mentioned Keir Starmer there saying that he would stay and fight. Is that just something he has to say at this point, or do you think he would really do that?
In a word, I think, well, it depends on what the numbers are on Friday morning. Yes, he does have to say that at this point. This is exactly what the Prime Minister does have to say. But when you talk to allies of the Prime Minister, they say it's true. He does want to stay and fight, and he does see a potential pathway where he could win because the membership of the Labour Party, they're not the left-wing Corbynistas that they used to be. Many of them actually joined because of Keir Starmer, and they quite like him. That said, it's true, Andy Burnham is currently more popular at the minute. So if he were to stay, he would have to fight, but they do think that there's a potential he could win.
Of course, Makerfield's not the only by-election taking place on Thursday. We've also got contests in Aberdeen South and Arbroath and Broughty Ferry after Stephen Flynn and Stephen Gethin's swap Westminster for Holyrood. How are those contests shaping up?
Well, it's really interesting at Westminster, actually. There's a lot of chatter about the fact that potentially could the Conservatives win in Aberdeen South. And if they did, I think that would set up a really, really bad Friday morning for Nigel Farage, because if you think about it, if Labour wins in Makerfield, if the Conservatives also win a by-election and Reform UK leaves the stage with nothing, what does this mean for a party who has run for the last couple of months very much on the party with momentum behind them?
Okay, Devlin, thank you very much.
Finally tonight, today is the 10th anniversary of the death of Labour MP Joe Cox, who was murdered on the 16th of June 2016. The fatal attack by neo-Nazi Thomas Mayer during the Brexit referendum shocked people across the political divide. The shooting and stabbing outside a surgery in her Batley and Spen constituency prompted a national conversation about the safety of politicians. But there's an increasing feeling that respect and civility is diminishing in our politics, creating a more poisonous atmosphere for those in the public eye. Today, the new Scottish Labour MSP Jenny Young led tributes to Joe Cox at Holyrood.
I want to start today by recognising that first and foremost, Joe was a daughter, a sister, a wife and a mother. And my thoughts are very much with her family, for whom I'm sure the 16th of June will always be a difficult day. Loss does not diminish with the passing of time. In the days leading up to this debate, many people have asked whether our political discourse has improved in the decade since Joe's death. But if anything, I believe our politics has become more divided, more entrenched into us versus them. Let us honour the memory of Joe Cox by remembering that we are far more united and have far more in common than that which divides us.
And that's all from us tonight. We don't have any more programmes this week due to the football, but we'll be back on Monday at 11:15 with a special programme, speaking with some of our new local MSPs. I hope you can join us then, but for now, thanks for watching and good night.